My name is Aaron Lamer. I'm the Network Development Director for Bay Localize. We're a regional nonprofit community-based organization that's working in the 9-county Bay Area to build stronger communities through regional self-reliance. There are a couple of main categories of green living roofs. There are the extensive types of living roofs which cover in a thin layer across a rooftop, and typically they're lighter weight plants that are in the category like mosses and sedums and those types of things. Then there are more intensive, deeper types of rooftop gardens, for example, like what we have here on the Kaiser Center, where you can grow everything from, depending on the depth of your soil, herbs to tomatoes, lettuces, veggies, hardier plants are better, to even trees if you align them with the structural integrity of the building, like has been done here on the Kaiser Center. As you well know, there's a major extensive roof on top of the Academy of Sciences building in San Francisco, where they've gotten all sorts of local plants to cover a vast area on top of the new building in the middle of Golden Gate Park. There are really a number of benefits that living roofs provide. They not only provide space for, if they have strong enough integrity to hold space for food growing, but they also help stabilize the temperature within buildings, which increases energy efficiency. They help combat stormwater runoff, which is sometimes a major challenge in urban areas with the sewage systems, so they help retain water. They can really help with air purification by absorbing some of the pollutants from pollution sources in the nearby environment. They can provide habitat for wildlife, especially pollinators, and of course natural beauty. And in dense urban areas where there's a lot of pavement and heat from those really black sources that tend to absorb heat from the sun, especially on hot days, they help mitigate against what's called the urban heat island effect and help with cooling of the local environment. What we can do here in the Bay Area and in other regions is take stock of our own assets. What do we have in terms of talent in our communities? What do we have in terms of local resources, like our rooftops, to grow our own food, harvest water, produce our own energy? Why not assess what the potential is of those rooftops to provide for food, water, and energy needs in our communities? And so we took it upon ourselves to do a study in a quarter square mile of a neighborhood called East Lake, right near Lake Merritt. And we did house by house survey, just checking out what the strength of the buildings would be to hold certain types of gardens or rainwater catchment systems. And we found, just looking at those buildings that were in those neighborhoods, that about 124 metric tons of vegetables could be produced just using a small number of buildings in that community. And that would provide the actual vegetable needs for people in the community and beyond, to the tune of 35,000 residents. We also found that through solar energy, a dramatic portion of the neighborhood's electricity needs could be met, and that 850 households could meet their irrigation needs through rainwater catchment systems. So by looking at those opportunities, we saw that rooftops are really an untapped resource, and so we published a report that shows how productive they can be. And since then, we've published a guidebook for people interested in assessing their own buildings for installing rainwater catchment systems, living roofs, and solar systems, called Use Your Roof, which is available on our website at baylocalize.org.
I'm Gary Rosenberg, and I live in Berkeley, California. This is my home. I bought it in 1998, and somehow I got into gardening on my roof. I spent a long time repairing my roof. It was all leaky when I bought the place, so I put a ladder up and started pouring rubberized stuff on it to fix it, and realized that I had a lot of space up here, and it started with just a couple of pots, and it's grown into an urban farm. And it seems as though the entire country is now realizing that we need to embrace growing our own food and cutting our carbon footprint down and traveling fewer miles and growing locally and eating organically. And this is just the manifestation of where I think the entire country is headed with regard to growing food. Everything you see here involves no money. All of the pots were thrown away and reclaimed. All the growing medium, the soil, the compost is stuff that I've created, taking things from the waste stream. Pretty much everything you see is edible, and every pot is a little ecosystem in and of itself. If I'm using a tremendous amount of water to do this, then I'm counter to my own desires. Very little water is used here for a number of reasons. For one thing, I only water at night. I think we're all realizing that that's necessary right now. The other thing is, because there are so many plants here working in conjunction with one another, and they're so well nourished by the soil that's here, which is mainly horse manure with compost and wood chips. The plants here need much less water than you might imagine. And the third thing is the way I've designed this roof, any excess water that goes through these plants goes into the hole over there in the roof, goes through, and is captured in buckets and then put back into the system. I also have a gray water system, so when I'm brushing my teeth, there's a bucket under the sink, and when I'm doing my dishes and I'm only using environmentally sound soaps, all of that water is captured and put back into the system. I love this house, and before I did any of this, a number of years went into thinking about it and studying it. I looked at the foundation and I looked at the construction. In this half of the building, the half we're standing on where all the pots are, there are a number of load-bearing walls that all run in this direction. And the greenhouse itself is sitting on 4x4 pieces of timber which extend, and they go over 4 load-bearing walls, which then extend down to the foundation, which has very big timbers, and those timbers are on concrete piers which are spaced 4 feet apart. So I wouldn't recommend somebody just going up on their roof without really studying it. You know, what do they say on television? Don't try this at home. Try this at home, but think about it before you do.
I'm Alan Good, and I'm the Landscape Exhibits Supervisor at the Academy of Sciences, and I'm responsible for maintaining the landscape on the living roof, which is about 2.5 acres of planted area, and also the site, the grounds surrounding the building, which is another several acres of landscaping. Design of the roof is unique, and it presents some unique challenges as well. The architect, Renzo Piano, was very interested in the aesthetic feature of the hills, of the domes. And I believe this is probably the only living roof in the world that has this steep a slope aspect to it. And that has presented a lot of challenges in terms of keeping the soil up there while the plants got established, keeping the water in the soil because water runs downhill, and especially in Golden Gate Park, dealing with the wind forces that will hit a rooftop hill. So yeah, the hills are one of the bigger challenges, and just the sheer size of the roof. It's one of the larger living roofs in the country. And also the decision that the Academy made to use only native California species that could be found in this habitat area gave us a lot of challenges in terms of choosing species and learning how to maintain them on living roofs. We have a great variety of native California species up on the roof at about 7 or 8 species that are the primary species holding down the planting palette. And then right around this observation deck that we're standing on, where the public has access to the roof, we've planted what we're calling an exhibit garden, which is a pretty broad, maybe 30 to 40 foot deep strip of planting, which contains a total of 70 native species. The benefits in terms of thermal insulation of having the layer of soil and the plants, the architects did figure in the fact that we would have reduced heating and cooling needs because of this roof. The roof itself includes the solar panels on the outside of on the edge of the roof. The solar eaves, and those are providing 10 to 15% of the electrical needs for the building. In terms of the heating and cooling aspects, we've already discussed that it's a good thing to have this layer of vegetation on the roof. And in terms of the domes, the actual configuration of the roof physically aids in directing ventilation, so there's an aerodynamic feature to the actual configuration of the roof. The water is delivered through it. We have an irrigation system, an overhead irrigation system, which we have developed during the construction of the building. It was developed because we couldn't do a subsurface irrigation system very easily with this very thin soil layer. And we have the water source here. The multiple water sources that we use include city collected rainwater and well water that comes from the city irrigation reservoirs, and we're working towards, and we have installed the infrastructure for a city gray water system, which in the future is going to be supplying us with gray water, recycled irrigation water. This is inspiration for architects and also for the clients of architects, because sometimes it takes an emblematic project to show people that it can be done.